Hey everyone, welcome back to the Swish Waterlad podcast, which is of course proudly brought to you by our major sponsor Swish, who give you the opportunity as a sports lover to get your very own personalised video message from your favourite sports star. It is super easy to use. The costs range from $300 down to $20, but the beauty of all that is that up to 70% of the proceeds go to Kiwi Kids charities, which is pretty special. To order, head over to heyswish.com or follow the link below in the description. And don't forget to enter the code WATERLAD at the checkout for $15 off. This is a purchase that you will have no regrets about, so go get amongst it. Also, many of you will know Pure Sport have launched right here in New Zealand for all their non-CBD products, where they have a wide range of nootropics, which is full of the best stuff you can give your body. If you listened to the Grace and Heart episode recently, you would have heard about some of the ingredients involved and how powerful some of these supplements are, and just how important it is to get off these prescription drugs such as tramadol. To order, head over to puresport.com or follow the link below, and you can also get 20% off this by using the code WATERLAD20. Lastly, grateful to have New Zealand's favourite horse trainer, Regan Todd from Todd's Racing, back on board, and he is currently training future New Zealand Cup winner Waterlad. If you enjoy your horse racing and you're keen to get involved in this, there's about 5 shares left at 1k each. They have no ongoing fees, and hopefully we have some absolutely priceless times on track winding home the great Waterlad. If you're interested, flick me a message and I'll get the details sent out to you. As always, super grateful for the sponsors to help bring these episodes to you. If you enjoy the podcast, go support them. But really appreciate your support. Enjoy this episode. Show.
Waterlad, 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 what an absolute lad. Waterlad, 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 what an absolute lad.
What a lad. Well, another treat for you all today with a lad like many young talents was labelled the next big thing after school after captaining the New Zealand school side. But also like many, rugby took him on an incredible roller coaster with highs which saw him play professionally for the Turbos and Bay of Plenty, and some lows which included some serious injuries, including concussion, which ended his career in his early 20s. He has been through plenty since, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about it. He is the legendary lad. It is Papa Wharewera. Welcome, brother.
Oh, kia ora, brother. Yeah, he takes one to know one. The man, the myth, the legend himself, Jimmy Marsh. Thank you for having me here today, brother.
Mate, thanks for reaching out and being keen to come on. Always helps me getting guests when guys are keen to come on. So, mate, it has been a while since we crossed paths, briefly at the Canes. But, mate, you're looking good. Fresh moko too. Love that.
yeah, man. Oh, I look that's probably the only change.
Yeah.
I tell a lie. There's a lot that's happened since then. I think that was back in 2012, 2013.
Yeah.
Was probably when we last spent a bit of time together. Life's good, bro. My family's healthy. I'm healthy. And things are coming along really nice for us.
Oh, that's awesome. And you've been retired for, 7 years now? That's crazy, eh? So how do you look back at your rugby career?
7 years. 2015 or end of 2015 was when I decided to close that chapter. Reflecting on it, just the other day I was in the garage cleaning everything out, and I stumbled across some old newspaper articles, some old photos. So it was a bit of a trip down memory lane.
Yeah.
And quite recently, my wife and I in Wellington, so we actually went back to where we stayed during that time, on Plymouth Steps. And so it was good to acknowledge that part of our lives back then.
So do you look back on your rugby career with any regrets or things you sort of wish you did differently, or how do you sort of feel about the whole thing?
Yeah, for sure, bro. There's probably a few moments or parts within my career as a rugby player where I know things probably could have played out differently had my attitude been a little bit different. I guess everything happens for a reason, or I know everything happens for a reason, and I'm quite content knowing that I did the best that I could with the tools and knowledge that I had at that time. But I do, there's kind of like this little ember burning within inside me saying, what if you had a go now in the current mindset that you're in?
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess there was always that longing to make our honours. But I'm very blessed with where we are now, and all I can, I guess, say looking back on that career was that I'm really grateful and fortunate to have all the experiences, make new friends, and the lifelong friendships that have come from that. So, yeah.
Mate, that's so cool. A little Ember too, mate. How good would it to see you back out there with the turbos one day?
Oh, yeah, I had the local club down here, the boys were keen to get me on to be a bit of a coach here at Tahito Victory Club, but we all know what that means, and we'd rather play than be a coach.
Yeah, hear that. But, mate, I'm pretty keen to get to your journeys. Like, obviously, it's a pretty cool rugby journey, a little bit different to a lot of the guys I've had on, but I know there'll be a lot of lessons in it for people listening. So, pretty keen to start at the start, like always. Where'd you grow up?
Born and bred in the Sunshine capital of Whakatane. Attended Te Kuro Pāroa and then moved on to Whakatane Intermediate. There's where the journey began, or my rugby career started as a little butty boy, 12-year-old with a snotty nose, playing soccer my whole life. And then actually I was forced to play rugby by an uncle of mine who was my teacher at Intermediate. And electives came around, and I selected horse riding because I just wanted to be a Melbourne Cup jockey.
True.
That was like my ultimate goal.
Yeah.
And he said, he looked at me, screwed up the paper, and he said, "Nah, boy, you're playing Ty Mitchell," and threw it away. And I cried and ran out. Yeah, so that was kind of like my intro to rugby. And I'll never forget the feeling when I had ball in hand and kind of bumped someone over. And I just thought, wow, this feeling is amazing. So, yeah, that's kind of where it all started.
Where did your love for horse racing come from? Was that from a young fella? Because, mate, I was the same. One of my dreams was to be a jockey and win that Melbourne Cup as well. So that's crazy to hear that was yours as well before you went into rugby.
Yeah, bro, growing up, we're like, before Whakatane started developing, especially in the commercial area, it was just surrounded in horses, paddocks, dirt mounds. So that was our playground.
Yeah.
And we'd always try and throw a leg over a horse, and not in that way either. But, have a bit of fun. But yeah, I was 49 kilo dripping wet.
Yeah.
So I had the perfect stature of a jockey.
Yeah.
I'm all, 5 foot something. Yeah, so I don't know. That could have been a real exciting life. But hey, it wasn't for me.
Is there a burning amber there to give that a crack?
Oh, my wife and I, because my wife, she's actually born in the year of the horse.
Oh, yeah.
In the Chinese zodiac, and she grew up with horses, so we hope to implement that back within our lives one day soon.
That's exciting. Might see riding home that Melbourne Cup winner in a few years.
Might be a few horse sports titles first, but I'll stay in my lane, bro, and say I'm a recreational rider.
Yeah, but back to your footy journey. So you're pretty good from a young age, were you? As soon as you pretty much picked up that ball?
Oh, I just, I guess for me, like knowing now what it was more of a release. I guess that feeling of, you know the feeling when you just bunt someone off?
Not
and
really,
it
but
feels so good. Well, you're probably on the other hand. I was on the other hand too. You're the one being bunted. But yeah, looking back on it, bro, it was like a release for me. All the frustration, the anger, resent, all of those emotions that I couldn't release at the time was put through rugby, through code. Anyone will tell you that I was quite a bit of quite a physical halfback. I like getting into those dark spaces. I like throwing the odd punch here and there, because I could get away with it, without going through the court of law. As you progress into professional rugby, the camera's on you and you can't quite do that anymore. So, that was a massive release for me.
So where was all the anger coming from as a young fella? Was it from upbringing, or you're just an aggressive person? Yeah,
all of that, bro. Now, kind of where we are now, we had to do a lot of that inner work to find out what that actually was.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was, physical abuse, sexual abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse. Throughout your whole lifetime, bro. And all of that, if it's not released, it actually stores within your body. There's nowhere for it to go. So you can think of a time yourself, bro, where you wanted to cry, you wanted to smack someone in the face, all of those things, and you've had to hold it back. Because because it's got nowhere to go, it's got nowhere else to go but in your body. So it becomes a part of who you are. Yeah, it's not only until recently that I've been able to dive into those depths of my subconscious where it's been forgotten, and kind of go back to those memories or times in my life where I've had to accept it, acknowledge it, feel it, release it, let it go from me because it doesn't serve me, and then make a choice what to replace it with. Yeah.
Mate, love that. So rugby was like your real release. That's sort of why you loved it so much. You get out there, like you said, let off some anger, I guess release all these emotions, and then obviously you were good at it too, so became a bit of a cycle.
Yeah, absolutely, and all the boys love it when the gears come around too. You know, that's always a fun part of rugby. But just I guess the comradeship as well. Being a part of so many different teams, the journey itself. You know, winning's always a big part of it too. Just celebrating, being in good company, and just being a part of a team environment. That's kind of what I like to do.
So did you move to Rotorua just to play rugby? Because obviously it's a pretty well-known factory for producing pretty high-quality rugby players. Was that why you moved there?
My uncle actually wanted me to go to Hapa.
Oh, yeah.
And another uncle of mine stepped in and said, "No, boy, no opportunity there. You'll just be a toilet seat warmer." So he said, Rotorua boys. And as a 12-year-old, I made that decision to go to the hostel.
Yeah.
So my parents were lucky enough to be in a position to support my desire to attend Rotorua boys, and that's when I was shipped off. But yeah, I spent probably 2-3 years in the hostel. I think when I was fourth form, I ended up going over to England, over in Cornwall, in a city called Truro, and schooled there for about 3 or 4 months. That was for rugby as well. Had a little bit of involvement with the St. Ives club over there. Little 14-year-old bumping over grown men.
True.
And then I got to see the Cornish Pirates play over there. So it was really cool.
So what were you playing? Like club rugby at 14?
I was playing school rugby.
Yeah.
But then I'd go to the Premier club rugby training and just get stuck in there. Yeah, it was good fun, bro.
Mate, you must have been unreal to be able to even think about competing with grown men at 14.
Yeah, well, I guess that's been me my whole life because I've been, I'm only a small fella. I've always had to try and, I guess, prove myself, keep up with the big boys in a way. So yeah, it's only just brought out the best of me, really, when I look back on that.
So your last year at school obviously must have been pretty successful because you did end up, like I mentioned in the intro, captaining the New Zealand school side, which is a massive achievement. Once you've got that tag, you get opportunities come to you pretty quickly. So what was that last year of school like for you?
That last year was really, it was really full on. We had made it. I think we beat Tauranga boys in the playoff, and it was 8-7.
Sure.
And that they had the best forward pack in the country. They had Sammy Kane on the open side. They had Carl Axton at number 8, and a guy George Doig at blind side. And yeah, we skunked them 8-7 to go to the top 4. And of course lost to Hamilton boys. But we made the NZ under 17s team as well that year, and also that was when they introduced the Chiefs schools. And I guess whether it was by luck or by chance, Carl Axton was our captain for schools, and he fell to a pretty horrific injury in one of our games against the Waikato under 19 squad. And then the coaching staff at the time thought that it would be best for me to take over. We felt that loss like something crazy because Carl is an amazing player, and the leadership qualities that he has was just top of the line.
Did you feel comfortable stepping in as captain once you get that tag? Did you feel confident to do it?
I actually didn't. I just wanted to be a part of the boys, and I always have been. And looking back, I've always been put in situations where the limelight was on me or roles of leadership, and I never really wanted it at the time. Although I accepted it, it was kind of like I wasn't quite ready to step up. Well, I just wanted to be part of the boys because we all know when you're in these positions of leadership, you kind of separated from what goes on with the boys, if you know what I mean. But that's all I wanted, was just to feel like I belong, and to fit in with the boys.
And then what was your pathway post playing for the New Zealand schools?
So actually, me and TJ, we had this plan, bro, and he was hating on playing halfback at the time down at Mana.
Oh yeah.
And so we were kind of organising that he would come to the boys, play 10, I'd play 9, and would just rip shit up, you know, and do all these wonderful things. However, I think that's when he got offered his contract with Wellington and the Canes.
Oh, yeah.
I guess that kind of around that time was when contracts started really kicking off for schoolboys. You know, we were getting like the likes of TJ and Sammy signing up with Super Rugby. It was quite a big thing at that time. This was back in 2009. And yeah, so I ended up deciding to leave school. My attendance at school was pretty poor. I had UE level 3, so I was just like, I don't need to go to class. I'll just focus on rugby in my last year. So I did that. Yeah, so there was a bit of an incentive for me. Turn up to class or don't come back. So I didn't go back. I ended up signing with Waikato on a PU contract there, and they enrolled and paid for my study, sport and exercise science. Things didn't work out in study. I think I did one semester, and I ended up working for Graham Bowen, who was the CEO of Waikato at the time, helping on his horse farm, raising fillies for the Te Karaka sales. So that's kind of how things went there. Played for Hautapu, awesome club, full of support. Adam Poker, aka Venom, was our coach at the time. Well, we had some greats there. We had Sumo, Keith Lowen. Yeah, the team was packed. Bill Fifey. Yeah, some old battlers there still chugging away in their late 30s. Romana Graham was there too. Tawara had just made the All Blacks, I think, that year. So yeah, I got a lot of starting time there at Hautapu.
And then, did you join the army at some point? That must have been around the same time, was it?
Yeah. So I kind of went through the grades, and Waikato made the Waikato under 20s team, played that comp, and then made the trial team for the NZ under 20s. In my opinion, was by far one of the greatest teams. Yeah. I think the 2010, and I think that was the first time when I went to that camp that I had missed the timing. It was a stretching session in the morning at 7:30, and I stepped in, and not once in my career had I ever did that. True. Yeah, and awesome. We did outdoor pursuit challenge and whatnot, and then I returned back to Waikato, and I actually sat in front of Chris Gibbs. He called me into his office, and he just looked at me, he sits there like this, rubbing his chin, and he just had this contract, and he threw it in front of me, and he goes, "This is yours if you make the NZ under 20." And I just sat there, and I was just like, if this is all you want me for, then you can get stuffed. I felt like I wasn't appreciated at all. Yeah. Like, just because, if I missed out on this team, that I wasn't good enough. So I kind of just thought, I'm sick of this politics in this game. I'm done. So I just left. I left Hamilton and went back to Rotorua on the old lady's couch, and kind of went through a real boozy stage of my life, where I was just drowning my sorrows, really, and kind of all my frustration and everything. But yeah, that's kind of how that ended. And back in 2008, I had applied for the NZ Army, and I thought, I'll follow that up. And met my now wife. Wasn't long. I think a month into our relationship, she fell pregnant. True. And then I was away on my basic training, 12 weeks in Waioru, and I left her for the first and second trimester.
Mate, that's crazy. So Chris Gibbs, you get a contract from Chris Gibbs. You didn't feel appreciated, and you're willing to just walk away from your rugby career, pretty much, was it? At the time, were you thinking, this is almost me done, I don't really care about rugby anymore?
Yeah, pretty much, man. And like back in that space, like I had a lot going on. Like study wasn't helping at all. Like the 5 a.m. wake ups to go to the gym. I know everyone does it, but everyone's different, and it was taking a toll on me. Our flat Probably wasn't the healthiest environment either. But yeah, just a lot of just life, bro, life in general. You know, a young 17-year-old leaving school into a flat, studying, trying to pursue his rugby career. All of these compounding like pressures, bro, was just too overwhelming for me, and I just bet the dummy. And I know that wasn't Chris's intent. You know, it was probably more of an incentive for me to kind of chase that and kind of use it as motivation to push myself.
Mate, were you only 17 at the time? Far out, that's still so young, eh?
Yeah, I was 17 turning 18. So, yeah, I was young. I was just a baby.
Far out. And then what you spoke about, like the sort of drowning your sorrows. What did that sort of look like as a 17-year-old on your mum's couch, were you?
Well, I actually, through that whole year in 2010, bro, I made a bet with Adam Poker, and that was to not drink.
Yeah.
So I went pretty much the majority of the whole year, and I do owe you a dinner, Venom. I'll get there, bro. that was the price, you know. If I lost the bet, I'd take him to dinner, and if I did it, then he'd take me to dinner.
Yeah.
But yes, I went the majority of the year alcohol free, and I guess that stopped me from socialising as well. But when I did hit the drink, oh man, we all know about The Shed by Timmy and Nazer.
Yeah.
We had some good memories there, and yeah, man, I was just a loose cannon. It was not a good time. Yeah.
So when you did drink, was it just you couldn't stop, or what did it actually look like?
Couldn't stop, bro. I was kind of just like didn't really give two shits about anyone or anything. Mostly, I didn't care about myself. I guess I was just going through a period of sorrow, and I didn't know how to deal with that. So the best way was to spend it with my family and just drink. You know, I think at one stage throughout the Christmas period, I don't remember being sober for at least a week. It was just day after day for probably a week, even more. Where I was just drunk every day.
So how do you get out of that? Like, because you do end up making the turbo somehow from this little rut. So how did you get out of that?
Yeah. So long story short, I finished my training. My wife and I ended up in Palmerston North and Linton there. I started my core training as an engineer in the army, finished that, and on completion, one of my bosses, Lilo, he bowled up to me and he said, Papa Wharewera. And I was standing there at attention. I said, yes, sir, Major. He said, do you know who Jason O'Halloran is? And I said, yep. And he said, he wants to know if you want a contract. And then I quickly said, oh, no, thank you. And I walked away. You know, just took off, and he said, get back over here. And so I came back, and he said, you know, he told me that Aaron Smith has just made the All Blacks and he's looking for a halfback. And he started to go on about the club and what, you know, how I could maybe help out and da-da-da-da. And long story short, he said, well, think about it and get back to me, eh? So that's exactly what I did. I went home and I spoke to my wife. We just had our newborn baby. And I just said, hey, Mama, Bogues wants to know if I want a contract. And she just looked at me and she said, up to you, Dad. Just don't be a coulda, shoulda, woulda. And that was all she said.
Yeah.
And so I accepted that offer. Yeah.
And what was it like going into the environment?
It was exciting. It was really exciting. Definitely something that I wanted to make. Of course, you know, you make it. I knew that was a stepping stone. That was 2012. Same. We had heaps of old heads. We had Crosby in there. We had all the boys. But it was really cool. Getting to play with like Junior, Tomasi Tama. It's kind of like, you know, when you're starstruck as a kid watching all these players and you're like, yeah, I'm playing with them now.
Yeah.
It was just real humbling, and it was kind of like a sense of achievement and accomplishment. And so I just got stuck in. That year was all about me taking that opportunity because it was one that I thought had slipped through my fingers, and at the same time balancing work life as a soldier as well. So that was quite challenging.
And then you obviously went pretty well that year, first crack in there, because like you mentioned at the start, that was when you got a call into the Hurricanes as was it a wider squad sort of contract or development contract?
Yeah. There was. I sparked quite a bit of interest. I knew a couple of games that the Crusaders were looking at me as well. And in that game too, Concussion got the better of me.
True.
We'll talk a bit more about that. But yeah. So the Canes alarm at the time, he said, I've got. I think we had about 5 halfbacks that year, eh?
Yeah.
And all of them were injured. And so he said, I kind of need you. Do you want to come down on a wider just to help us out and whatever? So yeah, I gladly accepted that, and that's how I got down there. It was a bit of a funny feeling, like I wasn't quite settled in I guess what had happened there. Whilst I was a part of the team, I felt like I wasn't. I don't know. Do you want to dive into that?
Get into it, mate.
Jimmy?
Let's go.
Yeah, right, kind of like right from the get go, eh? The team was to assemble on Sunday to have team photos and all that stuff, and I kind of got the you don't come type vibe.
Yeah.
Just turn up on Monday, ready to go. So I was just kind of like, oh yeah, sweet as, here's me, just a newbie to the scene. All good. Accommodation, that was a whole nother kettle of fish. Like, I think our baby was about 10 months old at the time, and I think it was me, Callum Gibbs, Dicko, Ash Dixon, and who was it? The old battler from Hawke's Bay,
Mark Abbott.
Mark Abbott, yes.
One of the greats.
Yeah, one of the greats. We ended up in a penthouse on Tory Street for about a week or two, and then we got shipped to another apartment, and then my wife and I ended up getting that apartment down Plymouth Steps.
Oh yeah.
But yeah. So that was really cool. But man, 10-month-old, we were getting thrashed 6 or almost 7 days of the week, and all I wanted to do was rest. My wife at home was just like, I want to get out of here. So that you had that going on, that whole family dynamic, and trying to achieve balance there. I couldn't sleep. I was in a deep depressive state, just from all these life pressures. I was still employed by the army, still having to be a husband, or not a husband, a fiance at the time, a father, trying to juggle rugby and my commitment to rugby, new environments, all of these things. So I was quite under the pump. I couldn't sleep. I was waking up probably 8 to 10 times a night. I ended up getting prescription medications to help that. I was having anxiety attacks, panic attacks before every training, and I blamed it on the protein, because I before then I never really took protein. So just a whole lot of, like, a roller coaster of emotions, bro. It was just crazy. And then, like you said, you probably wouldn't have guessed that I was in that state, but man, I was probably bottom of the pit, suicidal during that time.
True. Absolutely no idea for me looking at you at the time coming in. You're always like real energetic, friendly sort of guy, and then to hear that's pretty crazy. And so what did those panic attacks look like? Like, what's that actually look like, heading to training and you're having a panic attack?
Bowling up to training, it's kind of like a gulp. Here we go again. Kind of, all those feelings of self-doubt, fear of the unknown, kind of second guessing yourself, not knowing if you're good enough. Part of how I ended up there may have contributed to that. Feeling kind of left out a little bit, all of those things, or kind of maybe questioning your own self-worth, or my own self-worth at the time. So what it'll feel like is, I'll get ready, boot up in the changing shed and start walking out, and it just felt like my heart and my guts wanted to jump out of my throat. Like, just like real bad indigestion, like I wanted to spew, but nothing wanted to come out. It was like really gassy. My heart rate was elevated. I just did not want to be there. And then as soon as we started, then those nerves all settled down. Yeah.
And then you go and storm into Davey Gray's office and blame the protein.
Yeah, bro. I know, right? And all, nutrition was quite a big thing at the time. I think we were burning through well over 3,500 calories a day. And yeah, bro, it was quite easy to pick on protein because that's the only thing that I changed in my diet.
Yeah.
But you know, I think back to that time as well. Sitting in the changing room, and I resonated a lot with Ray Lilo.
Mm.
You know, because he's another legend, and I actually have a lot of time for Ray. For Razor, he was an awesome bloke, and he was quite open and sharing with how he felt. So we used to have these little secret discussions with each other, you know, kind of talking about how we feel,
Mm.
and you know, just supporting each other. He'd always raid my lunchbox. Nah, but massive love, and yeah, really, really grateful for his support during that time.
Mate, but there is so much pressure on, especially those pre-seasons are so tough, eh? Like you say, it was sort of 6 days of brutal training and then trying to balance the family life, man. It's a bloody hard job, eh?
Absolutely, bro. And like, you know, there's so much support there, and yet I guess people would feel like they're not supported.
Mm.
And I guess it's not so much in the space of having, you need this, or here, take that. It's kind of like more mentally, and I guess as a holistic approach to well-being. Yeah, because how do you help someone who can't really explain what they're going through when it's new to them? Yeah, you're not really gonna ask for help, are you? Because you don't even know what help looks like, or what can help you. But yeah, definitely navigating that in a mental space, psychologically was probably the overarching challenge during that time.
And you mentioned suicidal thoughts. Like, how often were you having those sort of thoughts?
Yeah, I've traced back, bro, and the first time I thought about suicide was actually when I was 12.
Oh,
You know, and it's probably earlier. I haven't quite dived deep enough, but 12 is definitely, as a 12-year-old, I was thinking of suicide then. And actually, it became a place of comfort for me. Like, I knew I'd never ever take my life, but suicide became my mate, or became my buddy, because it understood how I felt.
mm.
Um, yeah, so every time I was quite happy to go to those dark spaces because I knew how to navigate it. You know, I could sit there quite happily in a dark, depressive state. But the most unfortunate thing was how it affected my family and others, because I just permeated that darkness, you know, unknowingly, and not because I wanted to, but because that's where I found solace. The scary part for me was actually addressing the issues as to why I'd get to those states. That was the scary part. That's what scared the shit out of me. So yeah, I was quite familiar, bro. So it was no like this is a first time thing. That was my place of my safe haven.
Mate, and it's pretty scary. Like, I actually was at a dinner the other night with Mike King, who was speaking about how many kids have suicidal thoughts coming through school and all the stats around the New Zealand suicide rates. Mate, it's pretty scary when you look at it, like how common it is and how little is being done about it.
Absolutely, bro. And it's not putting blame on anyone, but I guess that's the environment that our children are raised in. That we have a lot of people, a lot of parents, including myself, because I've walked through that too. That have a lot of trauma and underlying issues that they fail to address. And I guess you think about when you're a child, going back to who's your biggest influence in your life. It's your mum and dad. You know, they pretty much instill the values that they have into you. And some of those values can be, I guess, negative. They don't serve you in a positive way. It's not only until you're an adult where you start to question these things and I guess ask the questions why, or why do I react this way? Why am I triggered? Why am I abusive? Why do I fall to alcohol all the time? And quite often you can look back to the way you were raised, and there's a lot of answers there. Same again, like I said before, all of these things that you experience as a child, because you don't know how to express it, or you're told, oh, don't cry, boy, harden up. They become a part of who you are as an adult.
So what was your escape in while you're at the Canes? Were you hitting the booze, or what were you up to? How were you coping with it all?
So my escape was actually the sea. Yeah, I'd go diving. I'd take my family diving with me. That was the only place that I could go to feel like a small fish in a pond again, to feel like the weight of the world is lifted. just straight back, took me back to my connection with the taio, with nature, to be at one with everything, to close off the noise, to find peace and serenity in my mind, through being, I guess, just a small part of something greater. And then at the same time, a bonus was getting a kai for my whānau, which my wife and my daughter enjoyed. Bit of paua, bit of crayfish, always went down well. Yeah.
Oh, so your pathway from the canes, you're back to the turbos, and I'm guessing this when your pretty bad run of injuries start.
Yeah, and I guess that was because during my time spent at the cane, I had kind of planted the seed that I didn't want to play rugby anymore.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be, this wasn't the environment that I wanted to surround myself in, full of ego, full of, I guess, backstabbing in a way. Mates who you thought were your mates, make the starting 15 and then you become a no one. You get injured and then you kind of fall off the wagon and no one really cares about you anymore. Yeah, so that's kind of, I was just like, no, this ain't me. This doesn't speak to me. And that's probably because I couldn't stand in my own truth. I couldn't express who I was, because I was in that mindset of self-doubt and all those things. Now I'd love to be put back in that environment. I'd thrive. I'd understand my position there and how to navigate that. Fine. But yeah, ended up back in Palmerston North. And yeah, you're right. That's when all my injuries came. I did my ACL. I fractured my orbital wall. I've got 3 plates in my face now. I ended up doing syndesmosis in my right ankle, so ripped the ligaments that hold my tib and fib apart. Oh, list goes on, bro. And concussion was probably the biggest issue, hands down. Concussion.
When did the concussion start?
Same again, bro. Concussion started from a really young age through high school. Yeah, but by the time I left high school, I probably had about a dozen concussions to my name. I remember one game playing against Hamilton Boys away, and I got knocked out twice in that game. It was even recorded on video.
Sure.
All because I wanted to make New Zealand schools. And I remember the game before that. 2 games before that, I got concussed. And I made an active decision to stand out of the next game before the Hamilton game so that I can recover for it. But that meant I'd missed out on my 50th game for the Rotorua jersey. But yeah, so concussion, bro. Walked out of high school with concussion. Again, concussions in Hamilton and club rugby. And then stepping into semi-professional, professional rugby where things are a lot faster. People are a lot stronger, quicker, the impact is greater. And being the halfback that I was, the one who likes dark spaces in those rucks, my head got a bit of a thrashing. I remember one game getting elbowed in the chin by a player, and this was the against counties. And one of my eyes was normal and the ground level was right up. So I went into the shed at half time saying, this is what's happening. I don't think I can continue. And then just being asked. And I know I can say this, and there's no blame or resent against the coaching staff at the time. But they just asked me if I could give it 10 more minutes. And, I could have said no, but I said, yeah, I can do that. Fielded, jumped back on the field, bro. Baden Kerr was the kicker. I couldn't see any one of their faces from standing where I was as a halfback. Baden Kerr just popped this thump of a restart on me, bro, and it just went straight through the breadbasket, and I was just like, nah, get off the field. I've had pre-season games and in-season games where I've taken blows and my head just felt like it wanted to explode. And my last in 2015 with the Steamers, just a full contact training. Got tackled, landed on my side, my head hit the ground like so, and same thing, immediately my head just felt like it wanted to explode. That's when I kind of thought, shit, I better take a look at this and take things a bit more seriously.
Mate, concussion's such a scary thing, eh? Like, far out, that's a pretty brutal concussion history. Were you aware of the risks going back on the field, like as a young filly, were you aware of the risks? What was it associated with concussion?
The education was there, but I guess, as a rugby player trying to crack it,
Yeah,
you'll do whatever it takes. You'll do whatever it takes. So, we can blame NZRU for whatever processes and stuff that they're putting in place, but us also as players, we need to be accountable and be responsible for actually saying, nah, I'm not all right. And I truly value my health and well-being. So I'm going to make the decision not to go back on the field. We can't just leave it all in the hands of the NZRU to say, well, your concussion tests are failing us because I get concussed and I still pass them. That's rubbish. We also need to take responsibility of our own health. So yeah, it's not. There's no one to blame. I guess it's just understanding that both of us play crucial parts in making those decisions. But we try and do our best to support each other and how we can best manage that.
100%, mate. You see it all the time, and I know it's improved a lot since probably back when you were taking these knocks, but I still don't think we're there yet. There's still a lot of guys who I know you can beat the system if you want to. I mean, a lot of the questions are, how are you feeling? How's your head? Are you feeling normal? And if you're saying yes to all of those, but you're not feeling right, you're obviously you're just cheating yourself at the end of the day, isn't it? Because it is your head. But your head, your memory and stuff, you seem like still right on with all of that. Haven't got any side effects from concussion now?
Yeah, that's kind of I don't know. What are the long-term effects? I battled quite a long time with short-term effects, like sensitivity to light, real sensitive to loud sounds and all the rest of it, migraines and headaches, all of the symptoms. That actually took a long time. Even my mood, was that part of the reason why I'd go into the state of depression. My wife often challenged me, like, it's your head, all these concussions is taking a toll on you. I'm sick of this, She copped a lot, bro. She copped a shitload from me. But yeah, it was kind of hard to pinpoint how concussion has affected me or continues to affect me, because I guess we haven't reached that stage yet. Yeah. But what's important is that I actually made a decision to stop, because I found that it was taking less of a blow for me to feel rocked or get a little bit tipsy. So yeah, because as a player, bro, when you put all your eggs in one basket trying to crack it as a rugby player, that's all you're focused on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you are going to lie, and I'll put my hand up now and say that I lied many times, and that's probably why there's insufficient data or history medically to support my application to the Benevolent Welfare Fund. But that's also understanding that kind of like you either make it or break it type thing. Yeah. So, of course, you're going to do whatever it takes to put yourself in the best position to make the teams, to get exposure. So, yeah.
So talk to me about that fund that you mentioned there. Like, what is that fund, and what do you have to do to receive money from that fund?
Firstly, bro, I'll start by saying for me, applying for this fund was never ever about money. Yep. It was kind of to highlight what I see as some of the commonalities or common issues shared amongst players regarding player welfare, because I sure as hell don't want anyone to go through the same journey or pathway that I have through rugby. And it's to a point where I don't even encourage my nephews or any of my whānau to play, because I just don't know if their safety is paramount, really. But so this welfare fund is established by the NZRPA, the Players Association, for players who are contracted. I think there's many different reasons you can apply for it, but in my case, it's for a career-ending injury, which can be resolved through concussion or any other injury. But yeah, so I actually never wanted to apply for this. I took the ABs out whitebaiting a couple of years back, and they invited me to dinner, and I got chatting and caught up with all the boys, and it was two Sams, Sammy Kane, Sammy Whitelock, that kind of concussion jumped into the mix. And then I had mentioned about my concussion. They were like, nah, bro, you got to apply for this. You're contracted. You're entitled for it. The support that you received wasn't the flashiest, and you definitely deserve this. And I kind of stressed too. I was like, oh, it's not about the money, you know. We're quite happy. We have everything that we need in our lives at the moment. And then they kind of hammered home about, well, what about everyone else? You know, what about everyone else that are going through a similar position or don't have a voice? They don't know how to navigate the space and just give up. What about the change to the system to prevent this from happening in future cases? So that's kind of my reason behind applying, because I guess either way, a precedent will be set. It's quite clear, and I know there's a lot of rugby players out there that would support, I guess, my view and take on this.
And how's the application gone?
It's we all know it's quite a slow and arduous task. There's a bit of a process to, I guess, putting your case forward. And yeah, Rambo, Mark Ramby, absolute legend. He's been one of a hell of a guy, helping me through that process. Even just as a sounding board and kind of resonating with what a lot of the cordial that I had to say. He also supported and agreed. We've managed to come up with a few ideas as well to kind of help negate or address some of these issues. One in particular was around the medical documentation of rugby players. One of my concerns was like, why is it that until you make semi-professional, professional level that your health becomes relevant? You know, what about your career as a JAB player, as a high school player? You could have received X amount of concussions throughout that period, but it only becomes relevant when you become professional. And part of that too is that every team has a team doctor, and those team doctors change all the time. So all your medical history and your records just bounce around with different practices, with different doctors. It's not centrally located where we can just go, NZRU, I need my medical history, please. They pull up your file and there'll be your history. It's not that easy. I've found myself jumping around between 8 different doctors trying to get some evidence. So yeah, you know, we thought, well, how can we? Well, what's the solution? A simple solution to help support players in that space. And it was something simple like carrying a diary. Like, you know, like a farmer will have a notebook and he writes down everything that happens on the farm. Same thing happens with a rugby player. You note down every concussion, every injury that you have as a written record of what you've experienced, because we can't rely on the system at the moment.
So what's like? I mean, the diary's the solution. When do guys start implementing that?
I'd encourage every rugby player to start now.
Yeah,
and kind of just use it as a dump to dump every injury that you can think of into your book, and then moving forward, just to note down how your day was, or you know, and it's good just for reflection too, to start creating awareness of how you actually feel, what's going on in the top 2 here. But it's just a good way to protect yourself, essentially, because you might find yourself in this position. I never thought I'd end up in this position where my career would end. So yeah, it's just something that will help protect you if that time comes up.
Yeah, and getting back to when your career ended, like, what was the deciding factor for you to end your career, I guess? Was it a hard decision for you to walk away from the game? I know you weren't really enjoying it. You didn't feel like it was for you. But what was the medical reasoning behind the exit of the game, I guess?
So I had to see a neurologist, Dr. Peter Wright in Cambridge, and we did all the necessary scans.
Yeah.
And so I went over there to meet up with him, and we kind of discussed my history of rugby and how many concussions I had and how the symptoms, so on and so forth. Anyway, we kind of had like how would you describe it? Just a casual conversation around what this could potentially mean for me. And he presented me with the story of a 2-sided coin. And he said, yeah, you can flip the coin. Heads, you walk out of my office and you have a successful career. You play hundreds and hundreds of games and be fine. The other side of the coin is that you walk out of my office, take one more head knock in your cabbage for the rest of your life. And that really hit home with me, because my wife and I had plenty of these discussions, and she said, I won't be wiping your ass, you know, kind of, you know, provoking me to think deep and hard about this, because it was serious. And I just said to him on the spot, well, that's enough for me. I'll make my mind up. I'm done. I'll finish right here, right now. And unfortunately, I felt like that conversation was a bit off the cards, and it was reflected in his report because it was never ever stated in there. Which kind of leads me to my second point around the support that we received in these really important appointments. After speaking to Rambo, he said, "Oh, you probably could have got a second opinion." Well, I never knew that. I had no one there supporting me. It would have been good to have a union rep there because an important decision was made right there on the spot. Had I known there was a second opinion to be made or to be had, I would have taken it. Because I could have had opportunities to take my whānau overseas and kind of live out my golden years in rugby type thing. So there's a opportunity missed, but also opportunity gained through helping others so they don't make this mistake too.
100. So were you just going to these appointments by yourself and you just made that decision purely on yourself and then it was done?
Yeah, well, a lot of the thinking and the deep thought happened prior to all of this. I knew my head had taken a beating throughout my career.
Yeah.
And to actually, from how that last concussion played out was that I actually didn't take a direct head knock, but yet my head wanted to blow up.
Yeah.
So alarm bells start ringing. You start thinking, oh shit, what's this gonna mean? The amount of force needed to trigger symptoms and stuff was getting less and less. That goes back to why are players put in a position where they're juggling their life or their career. There's nothing firm to say that I could have continued apart from myself knowing that I shouldn't. So ultimately players are being left to juggle their own life and their well-being later, like post-rugby. We see it throughout rugby. All these old battlers that have played, they're popping pills. All these props, they're popping pills to stay on the field.
Yeah.
What about when they stop rugby? What's going to happen then? You're obviously not going to be as mobile as you were. You're not going to be involved in all this training. There's a mental battle there alone. So what happened?
100%.
Yeah.
It's massive because obviously, and the later you play, a lot of these guys are getting paid massive money, fear of the unknown of post-footy. It's easier to just keep going and keep providing for the family and do whatever it takes. Like you say, if it means taking 7 anti-inflammatories a day, then that's what they'll do. Yeah. It's just kind of like, oh, I've got a symptom here, or here's a pill that'll look after you. Yeah. They'll take care of it, so you can keep playing. Yeah. So yeah, man, it's a tricky one. But there's because rugby's been your life for some quite a substantial amount of time. So when you go cold turkey and you cut yourself from rugby, from playing especially, your whole life changes, bro. It's just like, well, you think you still have to be this athlete, this high level athlete, and maintain your body to peak physical condition. You're still thrashing yourself in the cardio space. You're still pumping tin, and you're still eating really well. For me, it took me like about 7 years to finally understand that I didn't need to be a peak performance athlete anymore. So now all I do, bro, is yoga and a walk. Yeah. But beforehand, I thought I had to do CrossFit and like really elevate my heart rate and do all these things, be strong. And I was just like, for what? What am I doing that for? I don't have to perform anymore. But it took me a while. It took me a while to understand that. And how long was your obviously from that last knock? How long was it before you felt that you were fully sweet again?
I say now, it's just like, do I even feel fully sweet now?
What is fully sweet?
Yeah, what even is fully sweet? But yeah, probably, I don't know, maybe about a year and a half after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess that's kind of just working through what actually happened, what unfolded, and was that the right decision? Did I go about it the right way? All of these things. It's not so much just specifically about the head knock itself. There's everything else that comes with it, same, just a holistic approach to that whole event. What did that mean for my body? It meant that I couldn't exercise on a regular because symptoms would pop up. So what did that mean moving forward? What does my exercise look like then? What about the food? If I'm not exercising, I'm still chowing down a lot of food, I'm going to blow out. What about mentally? How does that affect you mentally, not being able to exert energy and stuff? How do I find ways to exert what I can't through exercise? So I wouldn't say it was specifically about the head knock and being right. I think it was just everything, all of the above, to bring me to a point of understanding and being able to step back and go, wow, that was a tough time. You did well, or you didn't. You could do this better,
And did you miss rugby, or like how long since you were out of the game did you sort of think, I do miss it, or did you never really got to the point where you miss playing the game?
Yeah, I it often pops into mind. Like I just miss being with the boys, and throwing the ball around, all of that. That's good fun. Just everything about it, it was a game that I really loved playing. Yeah, I actually turned off the TV. I didn't watch, and I probably still don't watch a lot of rugby today. When someone gets a big hard on about the All Blacks and watching the All Blacks, I'm just like, oh, cool, bro. I just crack on. I just probably just prefer to watch the highlights.
Yeah.
And just silently support the boys. But yeah, rugby took up so much of my life. I'd hate to let it continue to do that. Doesn't mean I won't watch rugby, but there's a lot more time that I'd like to dedicate to my family and other things, to my whānau, hapu and iwi, as opposed to giving up 3 or 4 days of the week coaching and rugby and even watching it.
You sort of sound like you've gone on a bit of a spiritual journey post-footy as well. So how did that start, and what was the sort of reasoning behind that?
Yeah, well, we're going to take a bit of a deep dive here then if you're going to touch on spirituality. But
we're in.
Yeah, man. So we kind of got to a point in our lives, and this was not long after the first COVID lockdown, and things kind of hit a boiling point. I was working full-time or shift work as a career firefighter. My wife was working full-time, 40 hours a week, staying home looking after the kids. And then, a breakdown happened. And from that, it kind of triggered a bit of a snowball effect into what is it exactly that we want in our lives. And everything that was happening in our lives kind of wasn't a part of that. And what we did want, we could make it happen now or at the time. So we did that, but what actually kind of triggered me to look within myself and sort myself out was I sat on the couch one night, blazed out of my dome, and I've never been into drugs or anything. It was kind of like the curious cat in me, kind of going, why does everyone get addicted to this? So this was me just finding out, and I sat there, blazed out of my dome, and sitting next to me was my 2 girls, and I looked at them and I was hit with what they wanted from me, like exactly what they wanted from me. And it was my unconditional love and attention, undivided attention. And I was just like, whoa, bro. And I just said to myself, bro, you need to sort your shit out. You need to get on top of yourself. You need to work through everything that you've been running away from. And I don't want to have to be under the influence of anything to be able to feel what I just felt. Because I was stone cold, bro. Honestly, my emotions were absent. I didn't even know what feeling was. I was so cold-hearted, it wasn't funny. Yeah, I love my kids and my family, but not in a way that I can express to them now. I'm quite open. I can cry. I can be vulnerable. So that's kind of what triggered my journey, bro. And a lot has happened since.
And what does that journey look like? How do you get into that? Like, where do you start?
My wife and I are kind of setting up a charitable trust now that is entering the healing space. There's no hard and fast kind of like this is how you get there. It is a journey, and it's a journey to self-discovery. Doing all the hard work, diving deep within. Everything starts with self, bro, and you have to kind of take a look at what shapes you, what makes you, and make choices as to whether or not you agree or that serves you. So work through all the trauma and all the hurts and all of those things that you have to kind of step into you, to find your true self and your expression, to find your individuality, your uniqueness, to stand in your truth unconditionally, being you. and in the service of others. Yeah.
And is that sort of what you're doing now? Is that where you're looking to take work at the moment? Is it down that sort of road?
Yep, it is down that road, bro. And I guess my wife and I have both we've worked really hard over the last, I'm going to say our lifetime,
Yeah.
because everything that happened needed to happen. We've now reached this, I guess, a space where we understand our higher purpose, and we're working to achieve that. And it's definitely in the service of others. So reaching out to people, or people reaching out to us, to find the tools and the knowledge that they need to be able to deal with whatever's going on in their lives. And it's definitely a holistic approach. There's no one way to attack it. And it is designed by you, because ultimately you are the healer. We can't tell you how to do that. You will know. It's just our job to kind of like bring the light to shine you back on the path that you've forgotten. So yeah, it's all intuitively led. There's many facets that make up knowing. But yeah, my wife and I are working hard to try and put together something that's palatable and digestible for people to understand. Because it is a journey, bro, and it's a long journey. It's a lifetime. And I guess instead of looking towards something to die for, we've both found something to live for.
Love that, mate. That's powerful stuff, eh?
It's cool, bro. It's really cool. And like at one stage in my life, I never ever thought I'd find the space of enlightenment. But it is cool, and the ripple effects of it, and it's all about focusing on myself, bro. And I know it sounds selfish the most, but it's actually not, because when you are focusing on yourself and doing the hard work for yourself to be the better you, the best you that you can be, it's only a byproduct that it ripples and flows on to the lives of those around you, your whānau, friends, and beyond. Much like what you're doing, Jimmy, you're touching the hearts of many players by sharing stories and journeys of other rugby players, because no doubt people resonate with certain things in everyone's experiences, and I guess that's all we can speak from, is our own lived experience. Anything beyond that, you're kind of like, talking gark.
Mate, well, I'm sure there's a lot of players or people who are listening to this and can resonate with this and some of the stuff. Mate, it's been a pretty special hour so far, but I do have some questions that I did chuck up on the Instagram that have come in for you. So we'll get through a few of these before we finish. And the first one, is it true that you don't ever shop at a supermarket? Yeah.
So quite recently, bro, an article came out about my time spent foraging. So I went 3 months only living off what I could grow, gather, dive, hunt, fish. There were no condiments, so no sauces, no nothing. All I had was salt. So for the majority of the time, I either ate it raw, steamed, or boiled. And then, I'd get a bit of wild pork fat, I'd render it down, and then I had something to fry, and so that's when frying come back in. And then the article, so a friend of mine, she wanted to do an article on it, and you know how the media works, bro. They kind of contort things and make it attractive to the general public. And so the I guess the title that was there had Bay Plenty Father swears off supermarkets or something or other. And that was definitely not out of my mouth. So it was good that I had an opportunity to speak. I had an interview with Jono and Ben on the Hits to kind of talk to that too, and then interview with Jenny Mae Clarkson on breakfast one morning. But yeah, no, I still shop at a supermarket, but what I do lead is a life of plant-based and seafood. It's not pescatarian. Pescatarian still allows dairy products and poultry. But so yeah, majority plant-based and seafood. And I guess there will be a stage where we will probably leave the supermarket behind, and this probably rolls into another journey or kaupapa that we have going with food forest design, food sovereignty, and unearthing and reclaiming the knowledge and whatnot that we have down here on the coast. If you have been following my socials, you would have seen that I put in a food forest system here with a lot of tropical fruits, papaya, cherimoya, atamoya, berries. You got blueberries, sugarcane. I hope to bring my family along this time, because it's quite easy for me to live without the supermarket. But in reality, it's a slow transition. we're undoing generations and generations of relying on supermarkets and stuff. But yeah, I'd like to bring my family along this time. So in order for us to not be reliant on supermarkets, we have to first set up systems here at home that provide food for us throughout the year.
So you mentioned there that it was relatively easy for you. What sort of time does it take to make sure that you've got enough food to sort of live off? Like, you're obviously out fishing, hunting, or gathering a fair bit. I mean, I guess the ease of supermarkets, what sort of makes it so tempting for everyone else?
Well, the main reason for me was, why I did go down that path was what I ingest.
Yeah.
Controlling what I ingest. And in supermarket foods, you have all these preservatives and who knows, chemicals used to grow the veggies and whatnot. You can't control that. Yeah. You don't know what's going into your body. And it truly is a matter of what you ingest is pretty much what makes you up. So that not only limits you to what you eat, but what you hear, what you see, what you smell. You can think of all the senses, who you surround you with on social media. All of that stuff is what you ingest, what you're taking in. So you're only going to reflect that as well. Back to your question. It does take a lot of time. But I made the decision just like that. I just said to my wife, I'm doing this from now. So I had done no preparation whatsoever. And I guess this kind of reaches into your ability or the type of person you are. Because a lot of my community here, my whānau, were more than happy to help me. And to say I did this on my own would be a joke, because that was definitely not the case. I was well supported by my whānau and friends. They enabled me to share what I had on offer, which was fish and whatnot. And in return, they'd give me fruits and vegetables that they grow in their own homes. I immersed myself within the environment, within our rohe, where we live. I found banana plantations. I found tropical fruits. I found fruit trees. I found puha, watercress, all of those things. But that was just by me connecting with the tile, by getting out there. So in the terms of what does it cost, it's actually expensive in relation to time, but not money.
Yeah.
And we often hear the saying, time is money. Well, when you kind of understand that, then you know the importance or the cost of what it is. Yeah, so I haven't been working for probably, I don't know how long. I finished up as a firefighter in August, 13th of August last year.
Yeah.
So since then, I haven't been working. I've just been putting time into, one, getting myself right first, so then I can help others. And then kind of all these different kaupapa now popped up to help support that.
Very cool, very cool. I love that. Makes me want to live off the land for a couple of months, see how I go. Well, I'm a terrible hunter, terrible fisherman, but could probably grow a veggie garden.
And it is, bro. It's as simple as that. It's just starting, because by planting one vegetable or one crop, you'll then learn to grow others, or you can just go dive right in, but I wouldn't encourage that. Only if you're in the position to do so.
That's it.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of resources to help you. But yeah.
Very cool. Okay, next question. How far does he think he could have gone with no injuries?
With no injuries, definitely the Blacks.
Yeah.
I definitely see myself in the Black team.
Yeah.
I often think too, and I know that when everyone would go around the room and kind of ask for your aspirations and stuff like that, the word to be an All Black was thrown around quite commonly.
Yeah.
And I used to say it just to kind of appease the room. I actually didn't want to be an All Black. I wanted to be a jockey and win the Melbourne Cup. So it was never an aspiration of mine, but I felt like I had to appease people.
Yeah.
So again, accommodating the opinions of others, and not stepping into my truth and saying, well, I actually don't want to be a rugby player. I just want to enjoy the journey and whatever that looks like it is. So probably that would have eventuated, because I would have been just enjoying myself in general. Yeah, but definitely the ABs, I felt like I could. I think I could probably get there now, but I'm not going to go there.
Right, that is cool. Love that mindset. Okay, next question. This is from our major sponsor, Swish. If you could get a video shout out from any celebrity, who would it be and why?
I don't know. That's a tough question. Yeah, my celebrities would probably be my whānau.
Yeah.
You know, for them to express their love and thankfulness to me means far more than any other celebrity could give. Yeah, so my family.
Mate, that is cool. Okay, next one. How does rugby prevent the concussion issue in the game? Sort of touched on this one.
Yeah, concussion. I mean, this is a bit of a rabbit hole here, Jimmy. You know, we both know that the NZRU, the NZRPA are actively working to find solutions and pathways in which to highlight and, I guess, look after our players in that space. Because it is one where we know, and I remember looking back to Brad Weber when he took that concussion in the game. Man, that was horrific. And yet he ran out of the tunnel back onto the field. I was just like, no way should you be on that field.
Yeah.
And then again, I can't help but go back to it has to be a relationship between players and the union, and players actually just being honest with themselves. But I think that honesty comes with actually finding out what it is they want in life and understanding that rugby is only a small portion of their life. And I guess that would help them to make better decisions around when it comes to concussions and actually removing yourself from further injury. But yeah, I guess education is key.
Yeah.
How we go about that education is another probably question to ask. I guess things like this podcast and sharing my experience about a concussion and what it meant for me would help. And I've reached out to the NZRU as well and said that I'd be glad to talk about my experience with concussion. They had a few campaigns running that never eventuated. Sweet as my offer's still on the books. But yeah, I'd probably say that we need to take a leaf out of women's rugby. You know, like the rugby that I see women play compared to men is one full of love and passion. You know, we know they get paid peanuts for what they do. You know, and it's reflected in the style of rugby they play. And I have to give a big ups to our women in rugby. I think they've carved a pathway of that needs to be travelled. You know, they enter rugby after being qualified teachers, physios, policewomen, so on and so forth. All these like massive professions outside of rugby. You know, their life is sorted. If rugby was to finish for them, that'd be totally fine. You know, they've got something on beyond rugby. So, I mean, too often players from a young age, it's even in schools, you know, rugby academies, they're stitching players up almost to fail because we know that not everyone cracks it in rugby. And when you make it, you're not necessarily going to make it when you're 18 or 17. It could happen right up until you're in your 30s, you know. So that time is different for others. It could be a matter of someone getting injured. But yeah, definitely the way forward is through women's rugby and you know, the pay disparity that they battle with definitely needs to be addressed because I see real power and a real guiding light in women's rugby for men.
Yeah, well, there's been some big shifts there, I guess, with now being televised, all the local NPC competition, women's game televised, all their games. Obviously, the Black Ferns World Cup is going to be hosted here in New Zealand. All these things, I feel like the women's game is growing, like you say, massively.
Absolutely, bro, and they are great examples of the game and as people in general. They are really lovely people, you know, the Sarah Gosses or Sarah Hiddeneys, your Ruby Tuis and so on and so forth. They are just amazing people. But yeah, just, you know, that's just my thoughts anyway.
Mate, love hearing your thoughts. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. I've spoken to seasoned players that have had the high, you know, the fame and the riches of rugby, kind of coming towards the end of their careers, saying, "I'm shit scared. I don't know what to do." You know, and these are players that are well known. They're common household names.
I think it's almost everyone. I think it's almost every player who starts off their rugby career early. It's pretty intimidating going to the end of it and not knowing what you're going to do next. Yeah, bro, for sure. And you know, because rugby's been all you know. And then, you know, when you encounter a lot of money, then you hand it on to someone who knows how to deal with money and you just stick to playing rugby.
You know, a lot of people like I really enjoyed Snakey and Tim Bateson.
Yeah.
They're awesome people, bro. And they're good examples for me. Real humble, you know, had their head screwed on. They had a plan. Even CJ, you know, coming through the ranks, doing his study and making the Colts back in that day, and then kind of entering professional rugby. Those were people that I looked up to.
Yeah, absolute lads, those three. No doubt. Okay, last question. I know you've given heaps of advice throughout this podcast already, but probably the most ever, to be fair. This has been good. But the best piece of advice you have for a Woodlad listener, hit me.
I mean, we all know what we want in life, although some people it's a bit confused. That you can get confused at times, but yeah, don't settle for less, man. Like you know what your worth is, and don't let anyone tell you that, you know, oh, you're only worth this much. I guess find yourself and stand in that, and that'll take you a long way. Had I done that when I was, you know, back as a little 17-year-old, things may have been different. But just definitely you have to enjoy the journey. Kind of, you know, whether it's positive or negative, step back and appreciate what learning is on offer. That'll do you a great deal moving forward. But yeah, don't be scared to reach out as well. Help is always available when you ask, and don't be scared to put yourself in a state of vulnerability. We are sharing your deep emotions, because I guess that's the true help that you want, and you're not going to get it unless you ask.
That's it.
Yeah,
mate. Not one piece of advice. I think we got about 4 or 5 pieces of advice there. We are lucky. You are lucky, listeners, to being able to get that priceless piece of advice in there from Papa Wharewera, one of the absolute great lads. Been a pleasure having you on the podcast, mate. I know once you reached out, I knew you would have had plenty to talk about, and mate, there's some real good discussion there. Some really good stuff around concussion, your purpose, all these sort of things. It was a really cool yarn. So really appreciate you coming on the podcast, bro. Wish you all the best with whatever's next in your journey.
Thank you, Jimmy, and I'd like to take the time to show my gratitude and thanks towards you, bro. The way that you do in the space is awesome. To hear stories, the different stories of all our brothers playing rugby. It's just amazing. You know, it definitely resonates with a lot of people. I've watched a few of them, and yep, it definitely touched me. But I'd also like to take this opportunity to I guess reach out for support with my application. I know people may have found themselves in a similar position to me, where I've got a good case, but I'm lacking evidence. So if you're wanting to support this cause, because it's not just about me, it's about the future of rugby player, and also those in the past who have kind of felt their voice was heard on deaf ears. Happy to talk and to discuss what that looked like for you, and then I'm happy to be your voice at the table when the time comes.
How do people get in touch? How do people show their support or get in touch with you?
Reach out on my socials, Facebook or Instagram. Or you can send me an email. Maybe you could check a link, my email on the link.
I will do that for sure.
But yeah, Papa Wharewera on my socials. But yeah, sweet as.
Absolute lad. Appreciate you, man.
All good, bro. Thank you.